Share this out. Let me know what you got going on today. Here we go. This is KHEA Radio 99.5 FM. It's Kickstart. My name is Gardy, and I am sitting in studio with Professor Ed Ramos, and I'm going to get into this. How you doing, Professor?
I'm pretty good, and you?
I'm doing good.
Nice.
So we got you in. Let everybody know, I guess, what do you have going on right now here in the Houston area?
Man, we run our school over there on the East Houston, right? We growing a lot. We start make plans, to open new locations right now. Like Philippe have like plan to open new school. I'm have like some planning, going on right now too to open a new one. And yeah, it's just like open more schools, more affiliates, give the support for them. And yeah.
So Ed Ramos, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If somebody hasn't, I guess, heard of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before, how would you describe it to somebody who has no idea what it is?
Yeah, we been doing jiu-jitsu like for a long time, right? Like over 20 years right now. And in the school, the affiliation, the association, we started like 5 years ago. And so far, like we work classes like like we have a classes for everyone basic, right? The guy like who's like want to just lose weight, like the moms just want like to get some exercise, and then also like fighters like Philippe, like for example, right? He wants to get on like on the MMA fight. We have like basic jiu-jitsu, for all levels, for all skills, ages. We have like kids from 3 years old, and then you have guys like 65, 69 years old, and then basic that like we provide jiu-jitsu for everyone.
So where are you originally from? How'd you find martial arts?
I'm original from Brazil, São Paulo, the São Paulo state, the city called Mirassol. It's like a little town and far away from everywhere, right? And
What was life like there?
it's like pretty simple, pretty like like a slow life, right? Like everything like so close. You don't need like a hushing too much, like it's a 5 minutes that way, 5 minutes, this way. And it pretty like like easy, like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, was jiu-jitsu or martial arts, I guess, was it prevalent there or popular, or what was growing up?
Yeah, back in there, like in like around 2000, 1999, like 2000. It's over there in São Paulo. It's not very popular. It's more like a Rio de Janeiro and then like Amazon, like Manaus, right? They have a more jiu-jitsu. And then around like a 2000, it started growing more in São Paulo, like São Paulo State, right? And then you start to see more schools here and there. But it's like super, like just like one school, like 15 miles, 20 miles away. And then we have like one option, we have one town close to my town is like have like 500,000, like people living there. And then have only like one school there.
Wow.
This is back in 2000.
Yeah.
Now probably have like, I don't know, maybe 30, 50 schools over there. It's like growing fast and growing, a lot. And yeah, like, like that, like we don't have the back there too many options. And then we started, basically like training with the friends on the garage, right?
Yeah.
And then training on the concrete. And then eventually, we find the place, and then we like, oh, let's see what is going on over there, right?
Do you remember what was your first introduction? I mean, did you see it, a video or see something on TV or a poster that led you to like, hey, let's go train, on the grass or just have fun?
Guess what?
What was it?
It's like most of the people, right?
Yeah.
I started to see like the fights, the MMA fights, like a UFC, like back there, like a Pride. And then you have like couple like in local Brazil, like a Vale Tudo, the ones like back in the day, they have the globes. They like, man, going crazy. And I started watching that, right? And then like I started seeing the fights and everything. And then I see some guys, like sometimes like a little guys, like skinny, dudes. And then like go there and then fight against, for example, like Royce Gracie, right? Like the skinny, and then go against the guys like 300 pounds, and then, he managed to finish the fights, like submit the guys. And I'm like, man, that's weird how that little guy, beat that. Because on our mind, like, we always think the big guy, have more strength and everything is going to be able to, to win the fight and everything like easy, right? But then I saw that, I started seeing, and then I started to see some names, and I started looking up, and then I started like buy like the old like a VHS, the
Yeah, the tape.
the old, yeah. And then I started watch like some fights, and I started looking into jiu-jitsu too, because I'm like, man, that's cool. Let me, that's good. That works. And I started see the jiu-jitsu tournaments, like, and then like they have back there, they have like a super fights. They used to call how they call São Paulo, like something like São Paulo challenge or whatever. And then they used to have the guys sometimes coming from Rio to go against the guys from São Paulo.
Yeah.
And I started, like watching that fight. I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
And then I started, man. I'm like, and then I got, I got into.
How old are you at this point?
Back there is like 19, almost 20.
Yeah. And so did you see yourself wanting to compete and I guess represent your town and everything?
Like, this is like happened like super fast. I started training like 1 week, 2 weeks, and this guy's like, hey, we're gonna have this tournament come soon. It's like, I'm like, when? It's like in 1 week.
Yeah.
I'm like, how that works? And then, because I have no idea about points, like about the point system they have on jiu-jitsu. The submissions, I have only like maybe 1 or 2. And then I'm like, hey, let's go. Sign me up,
Yeah. Do you remember how that tournament went? How'd it go?
I did pretty well.
Yeah.
I did 3 fights. I won the first fight by points, the second one by submission. I almost took the guy head off because the only technique I have is a guillotine.
Yeah.
And then the third fight I lost on the finals because I didn't know what is the advantage, like, even the points. I'm like, what is takedown? What is the 2 points?
Yeah.
I trying to figure it out, and the guy's like screaming on me. Like, hey, you lose by 1 advantage. And I'm thinking, like, what is that? What I need to do?
Yeah.
Like, kill him or something?
Yeah.
And then, I could, like, I tried to submit and everything, but I could finish the guy. I could get the advantage, I need. And then when I'm like, oh, man, I did, pretty well. And the guys I get, like, like, wow, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, like, training, you already got the second place. And, let's keep training.
Were you hooked at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There I'm like, okay, where is the next?
Yeah.
And then I went to the next one, like probably like a month after. And then I started like a study, like the point system and everything, the situations and everything. And then I won that one. And then after that, I just like keep going, keep pushing. And then, yeah.
So what school was that you were training with?
Like back there, I trained a little bit like São Paulo, Gracie São Paulo. They call Gracie São Paulo. And then I moved to Japan. And then I went to Japan and I started like work. I went to work, but also I started training, like over there too, like almost every day. I used to have like some gis on my car, and I used to, to work all day long, finish the work like 6, 7, go straight to the gym. And then start training like 2 different places, because one place they have a training only like twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, I need to train more. And then at that point, I'm super addicted, I'm like, man, I need to train every day. I need to train every day. And then I find another place, and I start training like both. And I spoke with the guys like, hey, it's okay if I train with over there. And they like pretty like, open. They like, no problem. And they understand, like, hey, he really loves jiu-jitsu. He wants to like compete and everything. Let him in training, And I went and started training at a different place. Kind of weird.
Yeah.
If you like say, today, like, hey, you training Gracie Barra and Alliance or something like that. It's
right.
Like super weird. But back there they saw like let him training.
Do you think it should be weird to train at a couple places?
Like, nah, I think it's like right now. Back in there is like a little bit more like the people is super, man, like super tough. It's like, hey, if you go there, you're gonna be a creonte. They have this word, right, for like a trader or something. Like if you go there, and then you always have that pressure, right? Today, like it's more open, right? They changed their mindset about that, but back there is like it's a little bit weird, like, and then they accepted that. It's kind of, I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
And then for like many years, like I heard that the word, a couple times, because I changed the teams like a couple times. Yeah. And then some guys, sometimes they get mad on you and everything. But today, like we are, you understand better. Like it's, as long like you're training on your place, you represent your place, and then you do well, and like you really represent the right way. And it's no problem, to train with the different guys.
So that's funny. Philippe just joined in and he said, "It's me, I know." Actually, no, we were not talking about you. We were talking about Professor Ramos whenever he was in Japan and wanted to train him at multiple schools because there wasn't enough classes offered at just one. So 2 days here, 2 or 3 days there.
Yes.
So in Japan, did they call it Japanese jiu-jitsu or was it jiu-jitsu or what was it?
They have there the the jiu-jitsu they do in there like for a long time. They call the traditional jiu-jitsu, right? I did a couple classes on that one to learn a little bit too, but they have back there they have like a lot of schools. They already have a lot of schools like Brazilian jiu-jitsu schools.
Yeah.
They but they do like the traditional one. It's pretty cool too.
What
It's
else
more
took you to Japan? You said you were doing work out there, but I mean, were you just looking for something different? Like, hey, I want to go to Japan. Why not? I'm young. Let's do it.
yeah, it's like it's more like opportunity for work. It's like back there in Brazil in 2000, around 2000 it's like a little bit hard to make. It like and we have the chance to go there, and then we have like some like good options there to work and make some money. And then we went there, and jiu-jitsu is only like that time is only like a part, right? Like it's just like a do a lot work, and then trying to make my time to keep doing jiu-jitsu, right? I'm just like a white belt, blue belt on that time. It's just like like I'm gonna keep doing this, kind of side, and then I'm gonna keep work, make some money, save some money, and then eventually, if I'm doing good jiu-jitsu, then I'm gonna take some time and just like maybe like a year, I'm just gonna do jiu-jitsu and see how it's gonna work.
Yeah. Did you compete in any tournaments out there as well?
Yeah, I did a bunch, and almost like every month.
Yeah.
Every month.
With you being Brazilian out there in Japan, I mean, training at the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academies and everything, did everybody kind of be like, oh, this guy, he's going to be good, just like walking in? Or was there a different expectation or anything like that?
Yeah, they even like today they think is this like if you're a Brazilian and like good in jiu-jitsu, do jiu-jitsu, you're good in jiu-jitsu and play soccer well, you're not
Yeah.
Brazilian, right?
Right.
Then yeah, but back in there like in Japan have like this big community, the Brazilian community there. It's like probably like that back there is like 200 300,000 Brazilians living there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's a lot of Brazilians there. And yeah, they already like know all the Brazilian guys who train jiu-jitsu and everything. Is like it's not like too like all it's no like back here probably like 30 years ago, right, when the Gracies like start like training, do some training and everything. It's like a little bit different because they already have some Brazilians there before, like probably like 10 years before, and they get like used to to Brazilians.
Yeah. Do you like the food out there? Was that an easy transition, or do they have, I guess, Brazilian food out there as well?
Yeah, man. Like back there, like they have like so many like Brazilians restaurant, right? And
Yeah.
I really love the the Brazilian food, right? But like probably like twice a week, something like that. I used to go to the the traditional Japanese restaurants. It's like, man, so good.
Yeah.
You don't understand. Like I have sushis here, like a Japanese food over here, but it's not looking the same.
Yeah.
It's like tastes different.
I'm pretty sure if we like Americans, if they had that like traditional, we're used to like the fusion or with the American twist or the spin on
Mhm.
it for the most part. But if we had like something traditional, probably like, what is this? It's not what
Yes.
we're used to, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So after Japan, I mean, how long were you there, and where'd you transition to?
We living there like around 3.5 years, and then we went back to Brazil around like 2005. And then when I arrived there, the first, guess what? The first thing I tried to find is a place to training, right? I'm trying to like, man, when am I gonna training now? There's no that school I used to train in Japan, and then there's no, I think back there have only like one Gracie Barra,
Mhm.
and they have this little group of guys like training on the gym, like kind of the old gym, the bodybuilding gyms. You have these big guys, like trying to go to the tournaments, bodybuilding tournaments. That and then they have this little mat, and then one day I heard about hey, have this place here, the guys training, have this purple belts, brown belts, and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, cool. And then I went there to visit, right, and then have this blue belts, purple belts, and I trained with the guys. And back there, my level is already like good. And then I start training with the guys, and then I did pretty well, and then they start seeing. I'm like, man, like they saw, right, like, man, this guy know like 10 times more than us, right? And then hey, do you want to teaching us, man? And I'm like, I know used to, and I'm, yeah, I can show you some techniques, no problem. And then we started, training, and then showing some techniques, and the guys, hey, you want to be the instructor? I'm like, yeah, let's do.
What rank were you at that point?
Purple.
Purple belt.
Purple belt.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it started like that. It's like, it just went there to roll with the guys, and then they saw the level, and they're like, man, this guy know a lot. And then, I like say, back there, man, I training, like say, I train a lot, and I trying to learn, like man, so hungry. I trying to learn like 10, 20 new moves like every single day. And then back there's no like YouTube, like no Instagram and nothing, right?
Everybody had a camera in their pocket that they can try and remember that later, or write down a note if they need to.
Yeah.
It wasn't there, yeah.
And then, but back there, I have my camera. I have like, I got ones from Japan.
Yeah.
And we used to use, to record the trainings and everything. And then they have this tournaments like in Rio, São Paulo, right? And then they have, these guys like selling the VHS, right? Mm-hmm. And then I used to order some, and then I always get like the super fights, and I trying to learn how the guys, doing the positions and everything. And I started learning a lot from there too.
Mm-hmm. So making that transition to being an instructor, was that easy for you? Was that your first, I guess, stab at that, or had you done any kind of teaching in your life prior?
No, that's the first. I think it's like pretty natural, I think.
Yeah.
Because I started just show like, like, okay, like, they show a move, and then they like, and then I start like, get used to, and then I start like changing a little bit my mind, right? Before I just like, okay, I want to, just like, be good, and then, smash some people, like, right? And go to some tournaments and everything. And then I start like, I realize like, man, if you're gonna start, keep doing this, like teaching the guys, I need to really like, learning the technique, all the details and everything, like perfect. And then when I start like, change, do that change. Before it's just like a show technique, and then, okay, guys, let's roll now, and roll like for 2 hours, just like one move. And then, I realized, okay, we need to like instructor the classes, like a little bit better, right? And then I start to see like, okay, now we're gonna do like the warm up, the stretching, like we start to take like 15 minutes, 20 minutes for this, 15, 20 for that. And then basically like every day, like trying to like to see. Sometimes you show the technique, right? But maybe like you're missing like a little thing. You're like, man, I should have showed the guys like a little bit like different here, a little bit different there. And then when you start kind of push yourself, to know the technique like pretty well.
Yeah. And people learn so many different ways. Some people have to see it. Some people, write it down. And it's just, I don't think I could ever be like a grade school teacher or anything like that.
You never know, bro.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I could, but I don't think I could see myself doing that, because you have to, whenever you have these individual students, some of them may learn different ways. Is that something that you kind of had to learn to do, or?
Yeah, I learned a lot of things like on the way, right? Like, for example, like a body type, like age, like, gonna teaching the guy, like 15 years old, 18 years old, the same way you're teaching the guys like, 45, 50 years old. And then you have body types. You have the guy a little bit short, little bit, like overweight. And then you have the guy like, like tall guy. And then you have, see like, and then you need to find the best games, for them. And then you're going to show the techniques around, there. And always going to try to adapt the techniques for them. Mm-hmm. Like even today I show the techniques, like say one triangle, but and then you have this tall guy, like skinny legs, they do the triangle, super easy. And then you have this short guy, the legs like so short, right? They even can close. And then you need to adapt for them, right? And then take me like a while, but I started understood, like, okay, it's gonna be individual, right? Like I can't show the same technique for for every guy, right? It's always gonna be a little bit different. And then I started like make notes, and then always like make notes. Okay, this technique here I need to show for this guy, this person, like this way. And then always like that, I have like, like many like notes, about this, like about like how to show the technique for that person, the other person, and then yeah.
Go from there. Cool. So you start teaching. That's your first experience teaching. They asked you, hey, you're pretty good. Can you show us some stuff? How long did that go on, and what was that next step?
Yeah, we did that for like around almost like 2 years, little bit over 2 years. And then I went to the point like, because I'm just purple belt at, that time. And I really love to compete, right? And I'm like, man, I need to push more myself. I started getting better like technical because I started paying more attention for the small details, right? And then, but I need that push, right? Like many guys like, have that thing too, even today, right? You're like, man, I want to go to the next level. What I need to do, to go to the next level, I need to start like, get like a training on the good place, someone like can coach me, like some good instructor, right? And then around that time, I started looking around, and I find the place. It's like 3 hours from my town, but it have this, this guy like, like a big name in Brazil. It's Robson Moura, like the nickname Robinho, and he's like 5 times world champion. He's like super good, and back there into like around 2005, 2006, is the guy, probably the, maybe number one over there in São Paulo, like the big name, right? You have like back there, let me see, Terere, like a couple other guys more, but it's more like a São Paulo. It's a little bit further from my town. And then have a Rob Samora is only like 3 hours away. And I'm like, man, let me, get there, see how the guy's doing over there, how's the training and everything. And I went, and then, man, I got smashed like so bad. And I'm like, I'm like, man, I need this.
Yeah.
And then I started like visit more. And then a couple weeks later, I just like, man, hey, can I train under you? And then asking him, he's like, yeah, man, it's fine. Yeah, for sure. And then I started going more there. Sometimes I went there. And then kind of, like a slow down the teaching, on my town. And I asking some guys, other, purple belts, blue belts, like, hey, can you run some class for me here? And I started going there. And then I went to the point like, hey, I can't make this week, and I'm over here. It's going to have this like a São Paulo state, like a tournament. And can you run like one more week there? And then I went, over there for do like a camps, for a week or two. And then went back to my town, training for a couple of days, and then went back there. It's like super tough, like, that time to make that drive, 3 hours back and forth, but worth, right? Like for me, that point, I'm like, man, this is what I want to, to do. And then I'm gonna go through.
Yeah.
And then whatever, needs to drive like 3 hours, 4 hours, I don't care. I just, I'm like, no other option. It's
Wow.
just like I'm gonna make.
So there's one thing that you said. You went and you got smashed, and you said, I needed this. So that's a mindset, I guess, that you have to be able to, get to the top.
Yes.
Be a champion.
Yes. And even like today, you see like almost every day, like you see the guys like leaving their schools. They're like, man, many reasons, but a lot, it's because they want to like go to the next level. Sometimes they don't feel like, man, to be able to get to the level I want, right? Like I probably need, find another place. You get like, different like instructor, right? Different like a school or, like training partners and everything, right? And then, yeah, when you do jiu-jitsu, like, okay, I got stuck here. I need to move it to the next level. What do I need to do? And most of the time, it's going to be that. It's like find another place, get that new energy, right? And then have a good partners, basic.
Yeah. So how long were you making that drive and going and just training and getting smashed, I guess, before it started changing for you?
Man, that took like almost 2 years, like at least 1.5 years, like doing the almost every week, doing this trip, like go 3 hours to sleep on the hotels and then training, like for a couple of days, and then went back to my town and then went back and forth. It's around like 1.5 years. And then I have this one of my friends, he opened a school associate with the association with the Robson Moura, like on the next town, like close to my town. And then I started went there. It happened almost the same thing happened before on my old town. I started going there. It's like, hey, can you teach me some class? And I started teaching some class, and then around like 2007, 2008, Rob Samora, he have like some guys like trying to bring him to USA, and then and then he told me like, man, I think I'm gonna go there, and then it's gonna happen, fast and everything, maybe 6 months, and then he started making plans, and he moved it to USA, and then the training, and then I started still continue going there to the school after he left, but it's not the same. After he left, I'm like, man, I need that push. I need the instructor, and then I went again on that, the place. I'm like, man, I want to continue. I want to, to get better. What I need to do. And then when I started looking, for different place.
Yeah. So during that time, I mean, you're making that drive a year and a half, and even after they open up the affiliated academy closer to home and you're teaching again, was there a long-term goal for you? Like, hey, I want to have my own school one day, or I want to be a champion one day. What was it for you that kept you going back? You just wanted to be the best jiu-jitsu player that you could be?
Yeah. It's like when I, around that purple belt, when I started teaching, the classes and everything, I fell in love in that one too. I really enjoy, like show the guys and then see the guys like involved, and then get, super happy when they do a move, I'm like, man, that's great. And I always love that. But my goal on that time is like, probably like 99%, percent is like, to compete, right? To get like the high level in jiu-jitsu. But I have this, like this goal to still compete for like, for maybe like 5-6 years, and eventually transition to, to have my school. But I never thought about like America, right? I always like, oh, I'm gonna have my, my school over here close to my town, and then I just keep going, keep like teaching, jiu-jitsu over here, and then the tournaments, the jiu-jitsu started like growing so fast, and then the tournaments start coming to here, right, to USA, and I'm like, man, and then I start coming over, to compete.
That's when it entered your mind, like, hey, this is a possibility. If you wanted to pursue that, it could happen.
Yes, and then, like I say, like before, in my mind, like I have that, that dream, like, okay, I want to be super good in jiu-jitsu, right? Keep competing. Eventually, gonna have my school over here. But that's like a kind of smart, small, like thought, right? Like just like, okay, my little thing here, and then when I started, go more to Rio, to São Paulo, and then go outside, and then start seeing, man, like this is huge, this is big, and then, especially when I come first time, to USA, like back in 2009, and then I started seeing, like the schools, and I started see the guys. I'm like, man, that's cool.
What was your first? In 2009, did you come to compete or just to come?
I come to compete.
Okay.
Back there, I would have switched the team, right? Like I went to the Atos when they first start over there, and then that year I trained maybe like 2 or 3 months with them, and then I come the first time to compete here, right? And then in California, and then after I went over there and I started going to like couple gyms in California. And I started like seeing this. I kind of changed my mind a little bit. I'm like, man, I don't need to be, over there on my, small town. I can go, whatever, maybe here, maybe like I started like kind of see the little bit like, the big picture, right? I'm like, man, I can go, maybe over here one day. But it's not like my goal in that time. But I kind of see this, in the future, right? Maybe I'll, 4 or 5 years from here, maybe, maybe here, maybe like Europe, maybe, and I started kind of see that way.
What was your first, I guess, impression of California or the United States?
Man, super cool. Like I arrived there, and then like back in Brazil, there we have this like cars, like super, simple cars and everything. And when we went to the, we arrived on the airport in in LA. It's like huge airport, and I started seeing the buildings and everything, and then the cars, it's a little bit different, right? And then I'm like, man, that's cool. Look at this building. I start seeing, and then I pretty like over there.
Yeah. What was that? How did that tournament go for you?
Uh, I did pretty well. I lost on the finals. I got close to win the tournament, and then I got second place on the 2009 on the like brown belt. I'm a brown belt at that time, and then I could see man, I wish I have that moving to the Atos a little bit early, maybe like 6 months, like at least 6 months early, I could probably like win the finals, right? And then I'm like, okay, I'm close. I can get there. Let me keep working, and then let's go back home. Let's see what I did wrong. And I just started like thinking that way, like, okay, I can do, and I can win. And then I just like let's go back to Brazil, and then train a little bit harder, fix the mistakes, and then just get better.
So you stayed at Atos for a little bit longer.
Yeah, and then back 2009, I make that transition 2000, like end of 8, like beginning of 9, like 2009. I moved to Atos, and then man, I went there. I'm like, man, this is great because it's like back there is not many schools like do like trade jiu-jitsu like as a professional, and then all the other schools I went, it's like they training, but it's a little bit more like kind of like a more fun,
Yeah.
And then I went there and I see these guys like man train like 3-4 times a day, do physical training, do like a like a specific training, like it's like really professionals, and I'm like, man, I need this, and then after there, like just man, here's the place I need to be, and then when we went back to Brazil after the tournament, and I started like just like training like the same way the guys used to training, like training all day long, and then you start getting better and better.
Mm-hmm. So how much longer were you in Brazil, and at what point did you come to the United States?
Like they're like I think the guys still do this today. Back there, like there's no much money for the athletes, right? Like if you have your school, run your school, like you can make some money, right? But for the athletes back there is like the basic only way to make money is like maybe like go somewhere, do like a camps and teach you some class, do privates or like seminars. Like most of like the guys make money back, like, until today I think is the same. They make money with the seminars, right? And then we used to like training all like for example like beginning of the year until the like June, July, we used to train hard and do the most of the big tournaments happen that time. And then after like June, July, we used to like start going around, go to like everywhere, like to do seminars to get some money. And then you get that money. Okay, now when you get this money, you're gonna be good for the next 6 months, 7 months. And then we kind of repeat this for a couple years, like just go there, get some money, like teach some seminars, save the money, and then spend the money like on the training, right? Basic.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like it's not too many sponsors back in there too. Like it's basic, you maybe get like a couple geese, for free. Maybe one or other, like tournaments, like they pay you registration, but it's not like too much money over, back in there. Like the sponsors, like they pay like maybe like I can give you like $100. I'm
Yeah.
like, man, I'm gonna spend like $2,000 to go there.
Yeah.
And then basic that like you need to go there and it's just like trying to get seminars and make some money.
So that was your goal. Like, hey, so I can train, get money, keep training, just keep getting better, come back and compete.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's the goal. Then it's just like I need to keep going and then get better, and then yeah, like and then a couple maybe like 3 years later, I start like help my professor back there in Brazil. Uh, Around that time when all the guys start going outside, trying to do seminars and everything, and then even Ramon, he started like teaching some guys like on the to go to UFC, like
Mhm.
some big names. And then sometimes he have a trips, he goes like to like Rio, São Paulo, or sometimes he come to California to to do the camp, run the camp for the guys. And then he used to ask me, to like teach some class, take care of the gym and everything. And then I went back, to like the same thing, like teaching, classes, and I started falling in love again. I'm like, man, that's nice. And I started doing for, almost every year, like from 2010 to like 13, when he have the trips, like 2 months, 3 months, he go out. He like asked me to, hey, can you take care of the school? Can you teach the guys and everything? I'm like, yeah, for sure. And then I start seeing again like,
Yeah,
okay,
a lot more teaching.
yes, like for basic like at least like for 3 months, for every year, I used to do the classes, and then I started like kind of change my mind again and start seeing, man, that the future I saw like back there 5-6 years ago, probably gonna be very soon. And I start to see, okay, maybe like in couple years I'm gonna start like do like a last tournament, and then start like teaching more. And then then I start make that plan to make that switch.
So about what year was that? Whenever you started, I guess, planning or thinking more about it. Hey, I need to find where I'm going.
I think it's around 2011, like 10, 11, and I start to see, okay, maybe in 3-4 years I need to start thinking about to have my school or find a place start work. And then I start make that plan, okay, 3 years, 4 years from now, and then I'm gonna start like.
Okay. And were there options? Like, was it like I'm going to Japan, or you said like going to Europe, California? How did you end up here in Texas?
Yeah, back there, like there's many like many places. Like I have like guys from everywhere, like trying to invite me to come over. Like they have the schools, and then they want some good instructors to go there. And then I have like guys from like Sweden, like Switzerland, and then like many places like German, like Australia, like Japan, like a lot. And then we have like few places over here in USA, right? And then yeah, the 2010 and 11, I started come over here to do like a camps, like I say, remember, you like basically have just 3 months, 6 months, to make some money. And I used to come to Houston, to do some classes here and some privates. And then I started making some friends over here, like, and for 2-3 years I did that. And then I started like coming more here. And then I'm like, man, that I started liking here. And I like the basically the people. It's like more like kind of like relax,
Yeah.
but it's like hard workers. It's like remind me like little bit, from like back in Brazil, like especially like São Paulo. It's like hard workers, and especially the place I come is like a little, kind of small town, and the people there's like pretty simple, pretty like straightforward, and then hard workers. And then I start seeing this on the people here, and then I'm like, man, and I start see the town and everything. I'm like, I start like really like here.
Yeah. So did you decide? Did you open up your school, or did someone else bring you in kind of for a little bit to teach it theirs, or how did that transition happen?
Yeah, the first like I have the invitation, the guy like invite me to go over his school. He's planning to open this school, and then this is like in close to Houston, is their park. And then you start make plans and everything. You're gonna come over here. You're gonna be my partner. We're gonna do this, and that, and start making bunch of plans. And then I'm like, okay. And then I like the plan he did. And then also is like it's gonna be like association with my team with back there, Atos Jiu-Jitsu. And I'm like, okay, let's do. And I went there, and then basically the thing is like it's not go through. The way like we talk, right? Like we make a bunch of plans, and then it started like go different ways. And then went to the point like, man, I can't work for this guy because he promised me this, and that. He don't did. And yeah, and then another guy like invite me to go over, right? This happened a lot with the Brazilians. I think now it's getting better, but back there like 2000, 14, 15, yeah, I see this like over and over, especially here in Texas, in Houston. And then I went to this other place, right? I started make plans to go back to Brazil, and then I spoke with my wife, like, hey, maybe let's go back to Brazil, take some time there, maybe like go, trying to, just like a step back, a little bit, and then let's think about and let's see what we're gonna do. And then when this other guy like invited me to go over to his school because he needed like instructor and everything, and I'm like, and then also he's affiliated with the Atos. Because for me, that back there is like, this is a big, thing. I'm like, man, I need to keep on my team, right? I'm not gonna go to different school and I start, teaching a different association. I want to be be part of Atos, right? And then he have this Atos gym over there in Netherlands, and I went over there, and then man, I went back on the same spot. He's like, hey, we're gonna pay you this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna open new school, and then everything. And I'm like, nothing on the paper, it's just like talk. And then I'm gonna help you to get your visa and everything. And then, man, it's like 2 months later, I went to the same spot. I'm like, he's not pay me, he's not did my visa. And then I start, start seeing, I'm like, man, the same thing again. And then we were like, okay, now it's done. Let's go back to Brazil. Let's, step back again, take a look, think about what we're gonna do. And then when I have one of my students from the first school, he start, he's still like training under me. Even like when I left, he still go there like back, to Netherlands to like visit, a training under me. And he started training on this like a taekwondo place. And then it's like they back there they start doing the jiu-jitsu program, and then my students start going over there and then start like training with the guys. And then his level is like different, and they start seeing, man, this guy good, is different. They taught his jiu-jitsu is another thing, right? And then this like happened very close there. Like he started going over on this place, and then he started being a friend of the owner of the school, right? His name is Jason White. And then he's like, I told him like, hey man, I'm going back to Brazil, the things are fell again. And then I'm like, I think maybe I need to go back to Brazil and see what I'm gonna do, right? And then they start talking like, hey, you don't want to come over here, and then like trying over here, I can help you with your visa, and then we can do some partnership, like do something good for you. And then back there I'm like, man, I really want to stay. And I'm like, let's give it one more try. And I spoke with my wife, and then she like, okay, let's try again. Okay. And then probably that time is like, I'm like, man, let's try again. If it fail, we just go back to Brazil and trying to figure out. And then I started, work to him, and then he's like, the things that like he say he's gonna do, and then start doing, like, hey, let's do your visa, let's get your good salary and everything, and then start going. He started doing everything he say, right? And then we start kind of start like a super small, like only like 10 students, and we start growing, right? We went to the point like we have like 50, 60 students. But we like sharing the same space, right? Sometimes you have the taekwondo going on the one side, and then you have jiu-jitsu going on the other side. And start to get like crowd, right? You have like sometimes like 100 people in that little space. And then we went to the point like, man, we need to probably like, get another spot, and maybe we get the new spot and just do jiu-jitsu, right? And then we start make this plan for like about 6 months, 8 months. And then we find a new location, new place, and then we're like, okay, let's open, this place, and it's just gonna be like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Because that point we already have like 70, 75 students, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna be able to afford, to pay the rent and everything. Let's do. And it kind of a little bit be scared, right? Because you already have your place, you could be there, like easy. The rent is like half, the price and everything. But I'm like, man, we can grow this, let's do this. And then we start make plan, and then we open, the new location like after like 6 months, 8 months.
So was that new one the Ed Ramos?
Yeah.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
And then we decide to do that change too, because we used to use just the school's name is Iron Dragon. And then we use, the school name, and then we're like, man, the Jiu-Jitsu guys, they see the name, and they just gonna think about the taekwondo, because the name is pretty strong on the taekwondo community on Houston. And then when you tell the the jiu-jitsu community like, hey, we do, we represent like Iron Dragon and everything, it's kind of a little bit hard to to the people from the jiu-jitsu community, right? Because you have this bunch of guys want to come over and train and everything. And then we decide to just use my name. because my name is back in there start get like a out there that people start talk about.
Yeah, were y'all brainstorming? It's like, okay, we have Iron Dragon. All right, people know that for Taekwondo, and they're like, I have an idea. Ed Ramos Brazilian.
Yeah, it's make more sense, right?
Yeah, it does.
And then they're like, back there in 2000, like, around 2016, I started have some students, go in there, compete, and then, kick some butts, and then the people start seeing, like, man, what's going on over there? Like, who's these guys? Ed Ramos, who is this Ed Ramos? And they start, looking for, and I start getting some other, students, like kind of blue belts from a different place, and they start coming, over, and then it start getting better and better, and they start going, to the tournaments, like win, tournaments, and then, the thing is that just you start growing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's cool.
That's awesome. And so then from there, that was the first school, and then how did it turn into the affiliates? I mean, people wanted to open schools, under you, or how did that go?
Yeah, like there, over there is I still kind of represent Atos like on the the big tournaments, right? And then the local tournaments we represent, just my name, and then I always like looking to to make the association again, connect again with the Atos. But they have this, the contract with the guys from Houston, and then you have this, like 30 miles radius, on the contract. You can break the contract and everything. And I keep using my name, I'm like, okay, maybe one day if they, they finish this contract, they are gonna be able to, to open like Atos, Houston, whatever. But that thing is, I keep going, it never happened, right? And then I'm like, okay, just keep using my name. And then, the people start see the tournaments, start see like, man, these guys have a like nice jiu-jitsu, cool jiu-jitsu. And they start seeing, like, where this guy come from? And they start seeing my background, right? Where the place I come from, my partners and everything, And then when the people start coming, to visit us, right? Especially on the open mats, they start come over in training. And like, man, they start seeing that our jiu-jitsu is different, right? And then we start have these people, come over like from different place in, around, Houston. And then they start seeing, they start like, hey, can I make part of your team? I'm like, yeah, let's talk about, and I start like see who's the person and everything. And, we open like a couple places.
So I have to ask you, talking about Atos and everything, how do you see the Gordon Ryan, Andre Galvao super fight going next year at ADCC? I guess, do you think it's going to happen, and how do you see it playing out?
Man, I think it's gonna happen, right? Because they both is like, they like professionals, right? Like Andre Galvão, he's training, super hard, and then, he have the title, right? Like he's gonna, I think he's gonna fight. I think he's gonna fight. I think it's gonna be a nice fight. It's gonna be, very, very cool to watch that fight.
I think so too. Yeah. You were talking about people making money. That's how with jiu-jitsu and training seminars and all that. I think one thing Gordon Ryan has done is shown that it's possible to make a noise on social media and some other things. I mean, you can make a living with jiu-jitsu, with your academy, like you have proved. But there's other ways, as well. So it's just interesting to watch, and I'm a fan of watching all of it happen.
Yeah. Like the people can say whatever, about him, he has his way to, to bring attention, everything. And I'm like a little bit like old school, sometimes I like, to like really kind of, show respect and everything. And then they start bringing like this thing, from like MMA, right? Yeah. And it's just like, for me, like, I don't know, it's just like kind of old school, I don't like too much that, but at the same time I understand, like, as long like you need to have a limit, right? Like you need to like, man, I can't cross this line, right? Like especially like, like go to the fight the way, happen that the alteration between both, right? And because, man, on the end of the day, we have a kids, train with us. I have like a kids program on my school. I don't want to see the kids like seeing these things, right? And then, especially the parents, are gonna see, I'm like, oh, this is jiu-jitsu, Yeah. I don't like that confrontation. You can talk like trash here and there, but they need to put a line, like, hey, don't let's go into here, don't cross the line here, okay? Because it's still jiu-jitsu, it's still a martial arts, right? Like you need to, show respect, right? But like I say, I understand, to like his side, and then, sometimes the things like get, off control, right? Like it's maybe like, you feel like too much pressure and everything, and you're gonna have all these people pushing him to do things too, and then, I understand him too, and then yeah.
Well, it'll be an interesting. It'll be entertaining. Like I said, I think it'll be a
For
good fight
sure, it's gonna be a great fight.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share? I mean, you can tell people if they want to find out more information about you or come and train. How can they do that?
Man, we have we have our location there, the HQ on the East Houston on the I-10, close to Beltway, and we do like open mats on the weekends, like Saturdays and Sundays. We're not doing a lot Sundays right now, but we're gonna start coming back to the open mat Sundays. It's very traditional. The people love, and yeah, like man, like I have no problem. Like anyone can go over there and training, like do cross training. I love that. I really like when they have a different guys coming over, and training, exchange, the techniques and everything. I have a lot of friends from all the like schools in Houston. They sometimes they come and visit on the week. We go over techniques. Like, hey, what is that technique? I'm still like my on my mind. I still like I feel like a white belt. That guy like started like 20 years ago. I might want to learn, and then every time I have a chance, man, to do like a cross training, I love that.
Okay, there's one final question. This one was asked earlier. Who's your favorite student? Philippe wants to know.
Man, it's like I'm the dad, right? I can't tell your
Yeah, who's your favorite?
yeah. What is your favorite son? It's like like man, I have like great students, man. We building like on the past like 5-6 years, we building like something like very very like awesome over there on their school, and then man, I like all my students like great people. Like sometimes you're gonna have this bad apples and everything, but man, the energy, the thing we have on the school, it looks like it's expel these people. They when they come and they don't stick too long. When they general like they leave, and then right now, man, like we have like awesome team, like athletes, like man, like the Philippe's level. We have like trained, like professor trained. We have like man, we have a great athletes over there.
Well, thank you so much for joining today. I appreciate your time and making it over here. I know it's not an easy trek with all the construction and traffic and everything else, but I'm excited we got you in.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. Like I hope you do like more soon. Yeah, and yeah, like man, like I'm always here. Like just let me know. I come over, okay? We need to do one with the Philippe too.
Let's do it. Yeah, we can do it.
Let's do that.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM.